political analyst, but he has agreed. He is a militant of the CPTM party. I used to call him sympathizer. He says, no, I am a militant of the CPTM. We say, good afternoon, Mr. Asha Paul, and welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Also, good afternoon to all those who are in Boyo Division, where I hail from. No, I'm a CPDM member. I don't have to. In politics, you have a political association.
Either you are there or you are not there.
Either
you belong or not.
Either you belong or not. You know, it's an ideology. You are there too. No political party or association is perfect. But I'm a member of the CPDM.
And you are proud to be.
Of course, proud to be. There are efforts, no political party and no one is perfect, but there are efforts that are being made with the realities and the obstacles that we face, whether they be security obstacles, whether they be social causes, whether they be political in a certain way, whether they be economic. I think all over the world there are problems, there are obstacles, but it's how about the efforts that you put in place to be able to tackle those issues. And I think that with that 40 years at the helm of the state of the magistracy of the country, His Excellency President Paul Biya has been doing a great job. He's dynamic.
We are coming to that.
And he's keep going.
We are coming to that. The time for us to welcome our chief, our own chief. He's not the chief of our wing, but he's our own chief here in Camdis Television. They call him, of course, Ernest Akufo. Chief Ernest Akufo, we say, good afternoon and welcome.
It's a pleasure being on this set, Tabi, to talk about topical issues of the Republic from the newspapers. I want to say good afternoon to the viewers out there. And to my co-panelists, I feel very happy being on the set with knowledgeable gentlemen like you. And once more, congratulations to my small brother, Kotem.
Yes.
Yes, Kotem. You see,
I think you will help him to pay the fine.
You see, when you have young enterprising gentlemen like this is the future of Cameroon, right? Yes, because I may say our generation is a sacrifice generation. But when somebody picks up that award, like the best youth in 2022, it's laudable. I can give you a hand.
Thank
okay?
you very much. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to you. Without any hesitation, with the collaboration of Roland Seal and equally our technicians, can we have the press review? The press review after this. We begin with the Guardian Post. Gains, challenges of Biya's 40 years at the helm of the state. Biya, father of Cameroon's democracy, liberty laws, successful battles to consolidate national unity, territorial integrity, infrastructural transformation. We talk of economic resilience, diplomatic exploits that project Biya as wise man of Africa, outstanding role in promoting sport, youth empowerment, Anglophone crisis, Biya's greatest nightmare, and then of course corruption still biting despite anti-graft drive. Can we have another after the Guardian Post? This time we have Cameroon Tribune, Paul Biya, 40 ans, New Deal at 40, the strides and the challenges. We can see some of the pictures of John Frunzi and of course the president of the Republic, President Paul Biya. The Guardian Post comes again to say Le Bialem, an Irish population captures, kills, buries 5 Amba fighters. And of course, we know that the Amba fighters are still causing havoc in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. Can we have another paper, still the Guardian Post? Cameroon Ballon d'Or. Biya wins special prize for outstanding role in development of football. We know that the Ballon d'Or ceremony came back with, of course, President Samuel Eto'o, and Biya wins the special prize for outstanding role in developing football. It's true that since he came to power in 1992, up to date 40 years after, we have actually taken part in several football competitions, notably in 1990 when Cameroon played the quarterfinals of the World Cup. Paul Biya was at Milan when Cameroon defeated the Argentina of Diego Armando Maradona in 1990. We talk the Post with the iconic communication journalism trainer Prof. Enoch Tajon quit stage at 67. The Prof has gone. Long live the Prof. Who talks journalism today in Cameroon cannot talk journalism without talking Enoch Tajon. We say may his soul rest in perfect peace. Adeha Ebaloju talking again about another journalist, Affaire Siki, la théorie du complot. Le journaliste toujours en garde à vue a subi des confrontations hier. And we know that he's actually having an affair with Samuel Eto'o's police judiciaire, les éditeurs de presse pour la libération de Parfait Seke. We know that Parfait Seke is involved in a scandal with Fecafoot. He is actually refusing to release a document that is actually saying that the vice presidents of the National Football Federation were not elected. And if that be the case, then Samuel Eto'o certainly is in trouble. How about Bamba Dampulo's asset with the Guardian Post saying that Baba Dampulo's asset worth over 500 billion francs CFA seized in South Africa. And the brainchild behind this is the first National Bank CEO, the chief financial officer, is accused of masterminding the seizure of the goods of Baba Dampulo in South Africa. 6 November 1982 le soir, 6 November 2022, 40e anniversaire de la section du président Paul Biya à la magistrature suprême. Éloge et hommage particulier de l'UPC à l'homme du renouveau pour sa fermeté et également pour le bienfait du chef de l'État. On a vu avec, we saw it with, of course, Bapo Lipot, the Bombok. Well, Douala, the Guardian Post talks of the PCC pastor hospitalized as fighting erupts in a church. The PCC pastor who is hospitalized as a pastor, of course, was fighting. The PCC pastor hospitalized as fighting erupts in church. And who talks the church today, we know they are always in fighting because of other money, because of other positions in church. Well, we are back. I'll begin with you, Asha Paul. We are back.
Thank you.
Which paper caught your attention?
I think Cameroon Tribune, which talks about the 40 years of the head of state at the helm of the nation, 40 years of commitment, 40 years of strides and challenges, as you would see.
We can see Cameroon Tribune, eh?
Yeah, we can see the
strides and challenges.
Strides and challenges. When we talk about strides, we talk about 1984, 1982 in the 80s where Cameroon was. The advancement in terms of population, it's much more. In terms of economic development, we have had shocks, but we've also seen strides. We have seen strides in education, where we have seen a multiplication of universities.
Yes, before you continue, Paul, I would like Roland Sil and our collaborators there to give us the theme already. Okay. Let them put the topic that we have chosen for this program this afternoon.
Sure.
As we don't have much time. Eh?
Sure. So 40 years at the helm of the state, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, his dynamism, his stoic nature, a man known for peace throughout the world, especially in Africa. When we look at Bakassi, when we look at the Anglophone crisis, even though it's a long-standing problem, all the way back from colonization and the Germans, all the way up to now, we look at the economic shocks that Cameroon has gone through. We look at his dynamism and his control. And 40 years is not given. And 40 years is not given. And we say that even if you have 40 years at the helm of state, through the strides and the challenges, and to still be at the helm of state, at the helm of the country, shows his convincing nature and his adaptability for Cameroonians. Because, mind you, in 40 years, we have had different crises, but Cameroonians have overall given the confidence at the helm of the state. So 40 years, that's what we are celebrating, notwithstanding the challenges, notwithstanding the strides. And I think together there will be more strides because in this commitment, 40 years, of course, we can rightly see that it will be very difficult for another Cameroonian head of state to be at the helm of the state for 40 years. So at this point...
I don't think we shall have another president who will last in power for 40 years.
So definitely,
I don't really think so.
Definitely, it's something peculiar. It's something to
celebrate.
To celebrate, and it's something to cherish. But not only cherish, but almost rightly, as the topic says, the strides and challenges, what we learn from it, and what we can grow from it.
Okay. Once again, I'm asking my collaborators to Roland Sil, Cyril Tolo, Rodrigue and equally Amandine Ada to give us the theme. Let us have the theme. We are talking about the 40th anniversary, the ascension to power of the President of the Republic. 40 years of New Deal, merits and the demerits. Well, I will begin with, I will continue with you, Chief Ernest Akufo. What caught your attention in the papers?
Catching my attention, Tabi, I want to say the tabloids were rich, yes, as usual. And You know, in journalism, everybody nowadays want to be breaking the news, okay? So you see most of the tabloids, they were à la page, as the French would say it. Yeah, because they wanted to maybe be in consonance with the events of Sunday. I want to say 40 years of magistracy of President Paul Biya. Strides and challenges.
Also caught your attention, Cameroon Tribune?
Yes, Cameroon Tribune, but most of the papers were talking about the celebrations come Sunday.
Yes.
Yes, but
Maybe the Post newspaper.
The Post newspaper, yes.
Against challenges of Biya's 40 years at helm of state.
Yeah, even the Guardian Post. The Guardian Post.
That's the Guardian Post.
Yes, they were talking about that. You see, to make a balance sheet, you go on income and expenditure, and then you strike the balance. I think that's what the Guardian Post was saying. It concerns very many domains: politics, economics, the social life, and all whatnot. I want to take just one domain, the economic domain. Yes, because that is what builds an economy. For the past 40 years, we haven't seen the cropping up of industries in Cameroon. Yes, because what makes an economy booming so that it balances the terms of trade and the balance of payment is when industries are created, when jobs are created. Because I don't think that bikers are jobs which the government has created. I don't think so. And we know that in every economy, it is a private sector that builds up, that makes the economy grow. The public sector is mainly consuming what the private sector produces.
So the private sector is doing nothing?
I mean, the private sector is doing something.
Okay.
Yeah, I say the private sector is a sector...
Thanks to the policies put in place.
Yes, the private sector is a sector where the government ought to have injected a lot, create industries.
But the government has given facilities for that now. The enabling conditions anyway. And enabling environment.
Well, I want to say which are benefited only by some. You look at my face, and then you know what I'm talking about. Only some are benefiting from it, because if that largesse were extended to some other business persons, it could have been good. But when you go, you concentrate, and then you give only to a handful of persons, and then they go and arrogate themselves of, I think it doesn't make sense. So when you look at that economic domain, it's very unfortunate that for the past 6 years or so, one of the highest employers and producers of,
the CDC?
Of cash crops in Cameroon,
the Cameroon
CDC, yeah, the CDC has been down. And you know, when we signed the economic partnership agreement with the European Union, and then we signed the AGOA. These are economic accords, which makes it that it's supposed to galvanize us. It's supposed to spur us to production. But what do we sell at the European Union? Rather, they do dumping in Cameroon. Yes, but in return, we don't export as much as the terms of the contract do provide. When you look at AGOA, the same thing with the American markets. What do we take there? We're counting on banana. We're counting on the penja pepper. We're counting on maybe rubber. We're counting on maybe cocoa, coffee. But has the production changed within the time? No. So you see that those accords, they don't benefit us much. If you permit again, when you go to the private sector, to the informal sector, yes, the informal sector in Cameroon is gaining grounds more than the formalized sector. And you see, that sector, it doesn't really pump a lot into the government coffers. Because when you see women doing, selling the bananas by the street corners, do they pay any money into the last taxes? No, except the bikers who manage to pay in something. Whereas if government had created employment, you see, direct or indirect taxes will be paid.
Are you saying that government has done practically nothing economically speaking?
No, we can't say that, Tabi.
In 40 years?
We can't say that. That would be an aberration.
Yes.
An aberration.
So
because,
what are you saying?
You see, with the creation of the dams, the various dams, the Mvele, the Mekin, and the other dams which were created, although the impact is not directly felt by the local consumers, but we hope that those are long-term projects. And then you equally have the Carriway, Yaoundé, Douala Carriway, and the Yaoundé Simalen Carriway. Those are economic projects which are.
I thought that the Ballon d'Or will interest you, given that at one point you wanted to be the Secretary General of the National Football Federation. Mr.
Ballon d'Or.
Chief Ernest Akufo. Can we have the paper on the Ballon d'Or? The newspaper on the Ballon d'Or. We have win special prize for outstanding role in development of football.
Well, I think that's a laudable initiative. The Ballon d'Or is a laudable initiative. Yeah. You see, one of the domains where the New Deal government has succeeded, I can say 90% is in the sports domain. There's no saying about that. We've had 5 AFCONs. Had the Olympic Games, yes. We've gone to the World Cup. This is the 8th participation. We've organized the AFCON. We've got.
We even defeated the Diego Maradona. The late Maradona, the Argentina.
Beating the legendary Argentina. Yeah. So that's one of the domains. And you know how sports is a unifying factor. Thanks to sports, there is relative peace in Cameroon.
Okay. Thank you. The man of Fecafoot. Well, what caught your attention, Prince Will?
Thank you very much, Mr. Tabi. You know, listening to Chief Akufo is very interesting, and I will never cease to listen to him. But I want to tell you the Le Jour newspaper, the Guardian Post, and the 3 of them, and the Cameroon Tribune. Those are the 3 papers that actually caught my attention, which I really want to blend them together for us to have something to do with the New Deal.
So we have Le Jour newspaper.
Yeah, so Le Jour actually made mention of Affaire Siki.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Guardian Post, it talks about Paul Biya wins Ballon d'Or. And
Paul Biya wins Ballon d'Or.
Yes, and you have now the Cameroon Tribune talks about 40 years in power of the President of the Republic.
Yeah.
How do I blend that together? I want to use sports for us to actually see if we've moved forward, or we are starting on the same place, or who is causing what at what place? What is retarding our development? If we have to look at that, these 3 newspapers will really give us an insight of it. Look at the issue with Affaire Siki, not so? Yeah. What is happening? He has been, I think, the Secretary General of Cameroon Football Federation, yeah. And we know how football has been in the country before. I want to beg to differ with Chief Akufo with that sentence that Cameroon has not had a good football or sport in itself sport policies has not been the best with the government, even though we have been winning trophies. But what type of trophy? The trophies that we win, how did it impact Cameroonians at the grassroots? Now you have someone who has come to the limelight, which is in the person of Samuel Eto'o, with the best managerial skills that you can find in the country now. I'll stand anybody who can contest that. And he comes in, takes the Cameroon Football Federation, and look at what is happening. Paul Biya has won the Ballon d'Or in Cameroon for his effort in living up to expectation in the sport domain. We have to question ourselves. The sport domain, which has been dead for as long as possible, wherefore we saw football were being played in the offices, people were entering a first-class flight without knowing how the money came about, the taxpayers' money. Today, you have somebody who is there.
There is some sort of transparency today.
Today, you have some sort of transparency. Today, you can see young people in Cameroon, like myself. I like to talk about young people who are seeing their future, that they can make something out of football from sport.
But that is a young man that Samuel Eto'o has sent to jail, Professor.
No.
He's a journalist.
No, I hate to hear that or use that very statement. He has sent to jail. No, the law. Remember, we live in are you telling me that we live in a lawless state, where for anybody can pick anybody and send to jail? No, we are living in a country with a whole lot of laws.
There is a one who complained that, my brother. Mr. Is the one who went to the police station and filed in the complaint?
Did he file a complaint that the man actually came and stole in his house? No, the man is. This is where we are coming to, Mr. Tabi Clarkson. You know,
because you took those 3 papers.
Yes, of course. Yeah. At my age, a very young man, and thinking about the future of Cameroonians, the young people tomorrow, that's why I question that a lot. Samuel Eto'o never sent him to prison, but the job or the nature of his office, wherefore the man is trying to retard his development, try to hinder the progress of it, because why? He's in keeping of the paper. Now, today you're the general manager of Camp 10. Tomorrow you leave office and your boss, the new person who takes over from you, asks you, okay, what are the balance sheet that you did? And you said, no, you can't give. What is your private property? If he sues you in court, will you say he locked you up? Of course, I don't think it's the case. Now, what I'm trying to say is that we have to look at football with the recent trends in football and compare with other sectors in the economy of Cameroon. You had sectors like the electricity, you have water, you have and the likes that you have them. Why? What is happening? What is happening?
That in the past, there's no water, no electricity.
Yes, water, electricity, and that's what I'm saying. Not so that when you compare this with the football sector, with what Samuel Eto'o is doing today, now you begin to ask question: is the problem Biya? Or is the problem the people whom he has appointed to? Because if today we're talking about football booming in the country, Mr. Biya getting Ballon d'Or, of course we're seeing that because it's good management. What has actually stopped the other people in the other sectors from managing as we think?
Also having Ballon d'Or
I think,
in other sectors.
I think yesterday there was a newspaper who actually carried one musician actually petitioned Mr. Biya to send Samuel Eto'o in the music sector because he believes that if Samuel Eto'o comes in the music sector, that he should just borrow. This is where the words that he used, that Mr. Biya should borrow Samuel Eto'o to the music sector for 1 year only. And we'll tell you that
you put a lot of sanity.
It's a way to make you understand that young people have the energy.
I now get your point. I have the impression that you are a pro Eto'o. Are you a pro Eto'o?
Mr. Tabi, whatever thing is good attracts everybody.
Because in Cameroon,
I like good things.
And see Eto'o.
No, I like good things, and I like when things are going right.
Okay, you like good things.
Samuel Eto'o is doing the right thing, and so I'm with it. The day something is going wrong, I'll always stand firm to tell him that no, Grandfriend, this is, and besides, to further comment on that, to tell you that I personally took upon myself to do campaign for him, even though it was not direct universal, so it was indirect, but I did campaign for him.
You campaigned for him?
Of course, it's on the social media.
I see why you.
Why? Because
you are backing it too.
We are doing.
Now it's
we
clear.
should back.
No,
what
you are
right.
supporting him.
We back what is right, Mr.
Okay,
Tabi.
he is right.
Of course, what he's doing is good. Is it not good?
To
do you have young people out there who can now boast of 200,000 francs salary when you have a government that has 36,000 francs for basic salary?
Sending a journalist to prison is right.
Tabi,
yes.
I beg, because I knew my brother, this palaver of you saying, I know you're a journalist, okay? Yes. Yeah, trying to defend the cause of Siki, Parfait Siki. I think, as he did say, we are not living in a lawless society. We are living in a society of law. Yeah. And the documents of an organization are not private documents. If Siki, because he wants to use the opportunity, like to tarnish, like to make some sabotage on President Eto'o, I want to say no. If Siki were intelligent and wise, he could have given back the documents and apologized. But since people want to maybe play big, play big. But I want to say, if it were to cast votes, even some journalists will cast votes against Siki.
Of course.
Because Siki is not, watch out, Siki is not arrested like journalist. Siki is arrested like former Secretary General of Fecafoot.
Who is a journalist by profession?
A crime.
No. We don't look at...
You cannot refuse the fact. He is a journalist.
He's a journalist, but he is not arrested like a journalist.
Yes, it's so that...
Siki is arrested like a former Secretary General of Fecafoot.
Which is holding news, which is holding
information of Fecafoot.
Can we have those with Parfait Siki?
Yes. So I'm sorry again. I have to take it.
Parfait Siki, la théorie du complot. Don't you see that there is somebody?
I want to say, la théorie du complot. Il y a les complots partout au Cameroun.
Bien sûr.
Oui, il faut qu'on le comprenne. Ce n'est pas seulement à la Fecafoot ou dans le football qu'il y a le complot.
Il y a la mafia partout.
C'est la haute mafia.
C'est haute instruction. Très haute instruction.
Okay.
So maybe I will have to land on that. I want to land on that. Mr. Tabi, what I wanted to land on it and to clear the air on this issue of Siki is the fact that actually, as a journalist, Mr. Tabi, you go back home and discover your child being shot by another journalist, and you decide to take that journalist to let the law take its course. Would they say you send a journalist to prison?
No.
Will you accept that?
Okay, let us come to our 40 years.
Thank you very much.
The merits and the demerits. I will begin again with you on this particular topic. I want us to focus first on the demerits.
Sure.
Because we saw there is one newspaper, I think it's the Guardian Post or the Post, saying that there are many successes, but there are two challenges. The Anglophone problem, and equally that paper made mention of another problem. I don't know if we can have the. I think it should be the Guardian Post.
Yes.
Yeah, the Guardian Post talking. There is corruption. Yeah, that has become really a canker-worm in our society today. Sure. So the Anglophone problem and corruption. Do you agree?
I think this has. I think it is very important to differentiate between systemic problems and the 40 years at the helm of the country, of the head of state, even though they are interlinked. President Paul Biya has always been someone who is very dynamic. If we see institutionally what he has put forward, we have the Special Criminal Court. We're just here talking about how we should let justice do its course, which means that in terms of legality, there's a due process and there's due diligence for things to be happening. Now, when it comes to the Anglophone crisis, I think it should be particular because I think people tend to want to historically forget our history, or maybe say predominantly forget the history of the Anglophone Cameroonian in particular, and attached it into maybe say their reasons for.
Who is making people to forget?
I think there's an opposition in Cameroon. Let's just be honest about that. And the opposition in Cameroon might not necessarily be an opposition party. Of course, when you're at the helm of a country for 40 years, people might have dissenting or different opinions as to about your leadership. And so if they have differences as to your leadership, of course, they could come up with arguments. But the most important thing is that this argument also, there's a contradiction to these arguments as well, which is what we're saying that the Anglophone issue, it's something which is consistent, but we as Anglophones, particularly here, not to make it a national problem, it's a problem that even before the accession to the magistracy of Mr. Biya was in existence. Because we would likely say the former conference was before the head of state took power. So this is a problem that has been before his accession to power. Now, when we are talking about corruption, I think that with the economic shocks and with the economic problem, there's been that actual problem, and there's really a fight. Even in the head of state address to the nation, he mentions it, there's CONAC. And I think one of the real issues where we're talking about, where we're looking at the systemic problem now is in the application in terms of the executive and then the judicial institution.
You're talking of a systemic problem.
There's a system.
Who is responsible then for this?
I think in the evolution of this systemic problem, the institution is evolving. It's not perfect, but it's evolving. But everyone has to know that as time goes by, it's evolving, because now, before, in the way people used to actually complain and denounce, it has very much changed now. Now, for example, let's give a good example for the Anglophone crisis and the military differences. If before, when you notice that a soldier committed an atrocity, and the atrocity is mentioned, and there's evidence on the atrocity, you would rightly see that the Minister of Defense, who is rightly attached to the President of the Republic, they, with immediate effect, they give a communique as to what happens, and to also put an investigation as to it, and it is put forward. So there's definitely a strategic improvement in it. Now, it's not to say that it is perfect.
No, we're talking the demerits.
Yes, yes.
We are talking the demerits. Demerits, Ernest Akufo?
Yeah, demerits, as you rightly say, there is insecurity, there is corruption, there is inflation, there is unemployment. You see, a country where the majority of the youths are unemployed, we're talking about, when you hear about triennial program, 102 billion triennial program of the head of state, we don't know where it goes. When you talk of the PRC, which has failed, you don't know where it goes. PAGEU and all the like, they've all failed. These are projects, economic projects for the youths which have failed. So go to corruption.
But mind you, there's some. If you go to the ministries and if you ask them about this project, they'll tell you, they'll show you places and instances.
Well,
because there are young entrepreneurs in Cameroon.
Well, it may not be.
When we say that something has completely failed, we tend to tag the regime as to something when we don't have the actual total proof.
Well,
so it's not completely.
Well,
has failed. But
He's saying they are failures. That's his assertion.
Yeah.
His assertion.
Yeah. Excuse me. Those projects have failed because
completely.
Allow me to talk now. Okay. Yeah. So I'll say they have failed. When if I want to do an evaluation, sure. I may put it on 30%. 30% because the way the things were supposed to be done, they are not done. Yes, so much so that other projects now are coming up. He's of the Ministry of Youth. He knows what I'm talking about, and I know out there to know what I'm talking about. So those projects have failed. Go to still on the
He was
economics.
awarded the best youth.
He's not a
Youth leader.
Youth leader.
Youth leader, but well, he must be involved in youth issues.
youth issues.
Yes,
He's involved in youth
he
issues.
cannot be a youth
so
leader
that's-
without being involved in youth issues.
So that's a
impossible.
success. So that's a success.
It's a success.
So that's a success. We
So,
said congratulations. right?
I want to equally look at
Corruption, you were talking
corruption. Yes, you see, very many units are created to fight corruption. CONAG, ANIF, and the Supreme. Yes. So when you look at all of these units created, yet corruption thrives. That's why we say it's a canker worm that has eaten deep into our veins. Why is it triumphing? Why is it thriving? Because all of these structures, they are not empowered. They have to answer. They have to report to somebody before the person. You look at what happened with COVID Gate. You saw the wahala that happened last week. Summons, no summons, all the like. You see that somebody is pulling the strings somewhere. And when the strings are being pulled, how do you want to deter people from being corrupt? People will get corrupted because they feel that there is an umbrella somewhere that will cover them. Because when you look at CONAC, CONAC will hardly publish its results without sending them to the presidency for cross-checking and maybe tell you, no, remove this name, no, do it this way. Give them the autonomy and they will do the thing.
The autonomy to CONAC.
Yeah, to take people, to take action against people, and they will do the thing.
And you say justice is not free?
Justice in Cameroon is a commodity. Justice in Cameroon is a commodity.
Just like bread.
When you have your money in Cameroon,
You can buy bread.
You can buy bread, same as you can buy justice. I mean to say, the justice system in Cameroon is corrupt. Even the magistrates themselves say it. The justice system is corrupt. When you have a big
Magistrates are
wallet,
watching us, eh? And we are alive.
we can get back to the judicial year of 2020.
Yes.
They declared it.
The President of the Republic?
No, the president of the Supreme Court castigated it. He said it. It's not Ernest Akufo declaring it. He said it. That magistrates are corrupt. And when you get it from there, and then you start trickling down right to the police officers and the gendarme officers, what do you expect? When you have your money, you commit a crime, you go to the police station, provided you pay for, you are set free. If you don't pay, they send you ahead. When you arrive ahead
send to the procureur.
to the state council, if you arrive there, you have a heavy wallet, allez, out you go. If you don't have, you go wallow in Conegui or New Bell. That's why we say the justice system is corrupt. When you have a system like that, a country cannot thrive like that. Impossible. And then let's go now to insecurity. Tabi, I want to say, when you look at a country where for the past 6 years, the government is unable to bring peace to the restless northwest and southwest regions, I begin to ask myself, who controls those two regions? Tabi question. Tabi Clarkson. It's just a rhetorical question.
Yeah, it's rhetorical.
Yeah, because if every Monday between 5 years today, a year has 52 weeks, 52 Mondays in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. How many days are those? Almost 300 days have been wasted in Cameroon. Do you know how much a day costs in the Cameroon economy? For almost 300 days to have been wasted in those two regions for the past 5 years?
You are talking the ghost towns.
Not ghost towns. They call them country Sundays. Don't even bring the ghost towns, because at times ghost towns are declared for 3 days, a week, 1 month, and nobody does. They only tell you everything is being put in order.
Okay, let's have Asham before we take Prince Will. Here's Paul. Yeah, Paul, a minute before we take
There should be a differentiation. Sure, there are security challenges. I think also there's a difference in the perception. I can agree with him, and I understand his assertion from civil society, the civil society assertion that there are economic shocks, there is corruption. It is true there is corruption. No one is refusing that there is corruption. But when we're talking about the systematic problems, we're saying that with systematic problems and institutions, there's a differentiation between the person and the institution that responds to these corruption charges. So just like you said, some people do corruption because they know that there's a person, an individual, who would cover them as an umbrella. But in front of the law and in front of the Cameroonian constitution, that does not hold. So the applicability of it is something that I know that the Supreme Court president has also been maintaining, has also been saying that they are working on it, and is adamant that more and more changes should be done onto it. And I think the President of the Republic, in his 40 years, is adamant on that part. People will not say that you could charge that, because when you do corruption, or you say that there's an umbrella on covering you, it's not because of the head of state that you're doing it. You're doing it because it's a habit. And you're doing it because you know that maybe when you even leave that office, you will never come back to that office. So you cannot be blamed on the head of state. It's a habit. It's a personal habit that someone has. Most people who actually do corruption is a bad habit. When you do corruption, as you are saying, it's a cancer worm. Even if they go back to the quartier and they're not doing politics, they will still be striving, even in their Njangis, to still do corruption. Because you can rightfully say, even in Njangis, there are corruption. So it's not the head of state.
Even in the church.
Even in the church, there's corruption. We just actually saw the PCC.
Yeah. The PCC.
The PCC fighting.
Who was beaten? He hospitalized.
Hospitalized.
The PCC hospitalized.
So it's not the head
man of God. The guided post.
So it's not the head of state. It's not the head of state. So we cannot always, that's what I say, that in the strides and challenges to the 40 years of President Paul Biya at the helm of the state.
No, not this one. The guardian post where the man of church is hospitalized. Right.
So in the 40 years at the helm of the state of the country, the president has he has gone through different challenges and different strides, and I think we're living in a different geopolitical situation where economically, with economic shock and capitalism for that matter, we can rightly say our parents...
The PCC pastor hospitalized as fighting erupts in church. And the fighting was for what, Ernest Akufo?
You see...
for money?
Tabby Clarkson.
No.
Yes, for money. You see, the church, par excellence, was or is a milieu where we're supposed to have sanity, where people go to seek solace. But it's rather unfortunate that the churches today are becoming worse than the society in which we find ourselves.
There is
a lot of corruption taking place in the church, witch hunting taking place in the churches, backbiting, villainy taking place in the church.
Because the church is just like a political party where people are fighting for position.
Yeah, you see, the church is a milieu par excellence where you have a melange of people with different mentalities. But when they come now, rather than seek solace, they come and still expose their dirty linen in public. Because what we see in churches today, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Yes,
thank you very much. And that is not the only one. I think the last time we saw what happened in PCC Kumbai,
yes,
with the small juju pots and the like.
In front of the
juju pots in church.
Yes.
It's a terrible thing.
Prior to the election.
I tell you, it's but well, like Chief Akufo actually said, Mr. Tabi, well, we can say that. As a young man, I'm fall under the Ministry of Youth Affairs, but I don't work in the ministry, neither do I have any strings that tied. I'm a civil society youth leader. I'm the executive director of Build and Sam, Bachi and Sam, which is a civil society
organization.
Build Together, where we've carried a lot of projects that touches the life of our community people. Yeah? I will take an example of the last one, which was nationwide on the fight against violence and drugs in school milieus. We did it in Douala, Yaoundé, Southwest, Northwest. So, and we're doing a lot. We did something too on hate speech. So it's on that basis and other awards, international awards that I've received that I was being ranked. Remember that we had so many young people with their works that were being done, that were being characterized and grouped together and assessed before I came out the first in that streets of...
We are talking the merits.
Of course, I just wanted to put that. Yeah. Now, coming back to the merits of Mr. Paul Biya, you know, I'm in my 30s, and which therefore means he took over power when about some few years before I was born. And at the point in time, I lived during his era, and I've seen a lot. This what I heard when he came to power. He talks about rigor and moralization as a principle which he grounded his reign on.
New Deal.
A New Deal, and today we are 40 years on. What can we assess of that? That is why I hold Mr. Biya responsible. I see him have failed in two angles. I talked about accountability and security. Accountability in the sense that when you look at how the government is, the various governments that have been in place that he has actually appointed, has been running, nobody will want to argue that he has not been running on the grounds of corruption. But well, any open-minded person, an analyst who has followed the regime will understand that to live in power or to stay in power, he's the oldest president now, but not the longest-serving president because we still have Teodoro Obiangema.
The members of government have been running on the grounds of corruption, or there has been corruption?
Please, can I continue?
No, yes.
So, when you look at that, for 40 years now, you realize that if he had to continue for these 40 years, he had no other choice than to lay the government on corruption, nepotism, tribalism. That is the only way he could succeed to remain in power for 40 years. Why do we say so? We realize with the passage of time, appointment into some of these posts of responsibilities has always been on favoritism. Tribalism, where you come from partisan politics. And when you've been appointed in these places, of course, you want to do everything possible to maintain your seat. And what do you have to do possible to maintain your seat? You have to feed people who did not merit where they needed to be for you to maintain where you are. I'm talking as a young man because we have a future. We're talking about sustainable development. Tomorrow you want to see me lead well because you have children and you have great-grandchildren that are coming up. How do you expect to see them? So it's on those bases I'm telling you what I'm telling you. So if you look at it critically, you realize that the government has, the various governments that have passed have been based basically on corruption, tribalism. And that is what has pushed the government to survive to this point that we are. Talking about security challenges,
time,
of course.
We are concluding. We don't have, we don't have much
but
time.
you didn't give me time.
No,
to
we don't
talk,
have
Mr.
much
Tabi.
time. We don't have much time.
You're talking
at the start of it, we don't
talking
have much
about
time.
security challenges. I want to take a great example of Ethiopia and Tigray. How long has that crisis been? But they found a solution to it. They signed a peace. They signed a peace agreement.
How many people died?
500,000. How many have died in Cameroon so
What
far?
did the international community say?
Please, I am not
Please,
supporting.
let's be honest.
Can Mr. Tabi, can I land?
Yeah, land.
I'm not supporting
In
a
10 seconds.
particular party. You understand?
Yes.
Mr.
Sure.
Paul Biya, the president of the Republic of Cameroon, is a father I respect so much for his age and for his experience in what he's doing. But when things are not good at a particular point, it's good we highlight them that they are not good in this point.
Sure.
Because it is our future we're talking about.
Okay, we have
so,
heard you.
talking about security challenges, the Northwest, the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest has been going for 5 to 6 years now. What is stopping us from making measures to take good dialogue? Because when we talk about the regional national dialogue, the special status, how special is the status we've been talking about all along? So these are things that Mr. Biya has to assess
Yeah, you
in
cannot talk the
order
whole
to...
day. We don't have the whole day here.
I'm not taking 2 minutes.
Okay.
You didn't give me
Yes.
Sure. I think it's very important that Mr. Akosho differentiates between systemic problems and the identity of the person at the helm of the state for 40 years. Even though it's true that when we are talking about accountability, it can link in a little bit. Now, when someone is named, it behooves them to actually, in their competency, do their job. It will not be a shock to many here that people likely say in Cameroon that someone has a PhD. Everyone expected him to do something at his job, but when he got to the position, began thinking of himself. That's not the head of state. You were actually nominated for a position to be able to do something. If now when you come to a position and you begin to implement nepotism, you cannot be blaming the head of state for that type of nepotism. That is individualistic. Now, if you are saying that in terms of we as Bantu and our cultural identity, it is like it
So
is
when
more,
somebody performs
most
nepotism,
people-
it's not Biya.
it's not beer.
Now we have to
It is
go
very
ahead.
true that now, but we do have a systemic problem that when an African most often times is named or takes a position, he begins to think of his village instead of thinking of the position. So we should differentiate that than differentiating between the president of the republic and the policy which is put in place.
You're very right. And I'm very happy you talk about the Bantu culture. We are Africans. Mr. Tabi, I always like to draw my inspiration from examples. I want to ask you, in the Bantu, we know that the father is always the head of the house.
Yeah.
Imagine you go out like a father, went to visit your friends, and upon going out, you leave instructions with your children. You have to untie the goat, you have to fetch water, and you have to carry this. Now, you went and visited your friend, and you guys discussed among your age group, and you're coming back in the evening, and nobody has untied the goats, nobody has carried water. Who should we hold responsible?
Who should be responsible for not untying the goats?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said when you send your child to school and he goes back with bad grades, who should you hold responsible?
No, you don't ask question on question.
No, that's another-
No, that's the thing. You send your child to school and he came back with bad grades, who should you blame?
This is what I want to say.
No, that's
when your
practical.
child comes back with a bad grade in school,
Yes.
right? When your
blame
child
the
comes back
parents?
with a bad grade in school, and every year the bad grades keep continuing every year, your father, you're wrong because it means that you did not follow up that child.
Excellent.
But if you follow up the child,
Excellent.
you realize I said the bad grade may come in the first year, but in the second year you may not have a bad grade. If you have in the second year, what about the third year?
If that child keeps bringing poor
Please,
results, it
please.
means there was garbage in, and for sure there will be garbage out.
So let's
Home training is a first of education.
Mr. Bia has
training,
this is
very-
Bia is 9, is 18,
Please,
you cannot-
we are not talking
It's 40
age.
years in power. It's
We are
going
not
out.
talking- we are not
If
talking
we
age
continue
today.
in this
Mr.
same,
Akoba.
We have
I
heard
have
you.
not refused.
We have heard you. Thank you. Yes.
Please, let's be honest
Mr.
about.
Tabi, you don't give me the.
You want to take the
have
no.
the whole day to talk.
You cannot have
I
the.
didn't have it.
No, you are talking the whole. You are
The
talking the whole.
televiewers.
No, you cannot.
You are talking more than everybody. Yes. That is the truth. Yes, Mr. Asham. We are
Maybe I'm
concluding.
saying what is catchy.
No, you are subjectively thinking that what you're saying is catchy. We are
Yes,
no,
But
you are
it's okay. It's okay.
If you allow me to talk, I'll be able to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, say something
You're
about it.
subjectively thinking that what you're saying is catchy because it's a subjective propaganda opinion, thinking that it is catchy.
fine.
No, there's a difference between a systematic problem, a systemic problem, an institutional problem, and then a personal problem of an individual.
That's big
Now-
grammar.
No, it's not big grammar. It's a reality. It's pragmatism. Now the
If
president.
you send a child to school and he fails,
If you send a child to school and he fails, you have to find out what happened in school.
Okay.
You are thinking that when you send a child to school, you should actually be worrying what
That's not
happened
what
in the
I
house.
think.
No. That's
I explained to you
No.
what
If you send a child to school, the child went to school. That's a distance. I left my home. I went to school. What happened in the school? But that's education at the basic level. If you cannot find out what happened in the school and you're beginning to think that no, it's my education. Not every child is the same like every other child. Every parent can accept that.
Yeah.
Not every child will succeed in family. Everyone can accept that. Not every child will.
and if your child does not succeed, it's not be a whistle.
And when your
not-
chi-
not when the whole family does not succeed.
And I'll tell you something. And that's the fundamental problem in Africa sometimes, and the fundamental problem with us. What is success? So because the child went to school and did not get the grades, what about the other child who went to school, did not get the best grades, but in society came out and succeeded in a vocational training and was successful?
I would like us to watch
So
this.
let's be very
I would
careful
like-
with our
I would like
assumptions.
us to take this newspaper where there is a Bombok Robert Bapo report.
Sure.
I think it should be either Le Quotidien with the collaboration of Le Soir. Le Soir, we are talking of 6 novembre 1982, 6 novembre 2022, 40e anniversaire de la session du président Paul Biya à la magistrature suprême, éloge et hommage particulier de l'UPC à l'homme du renouveau. I want to ask you this question. You, because you are at this, you have an age more than us, some of us here. Tell us, do you know Bapo Report?
Yes, that's a politician, a UPC diehard. When I look at that caption, I get flabbergasted. Yes, because I want to say that is political prostitution.
Why is it political prostitution?
Political prostitution because, you know, from time immemorial,
The UPC
since the
the
epoch,
UPC has always been a very close friend to the
yes,
CPDM.
since the
Anyway.
epoch of late Kodok,
Yeah,
may
late
so
Late
rest in
Kodok.
peace. The UPC has been a very close ally
to
the CPDM.
To the CPDM and to the regime.
And that has made it that the government in power or closer to power has fragilized that political party. And that is almost what was trying to be done to the other political parties, which are not named here, not to do cheap publicity. So when I see him saying he's doing an assessment of the 40 years of President Paul Biya, it's but normal. You can't bite the finger that fits you, okay? Yeah, you don't bite the finger that fits you.
Okay, we
Maybe
got
I
to.
should just add something to
we-
that.
we-
When we're talking about UPC,
No, I'm the one giving the
we
floor
have
here.
to-
Please, I'm the one giving the floor here. I'm the one moderating, please.
Well, I have the impression I don't need to.
I am the one moderating.
It's
You
okay.
don't just pop in like that. I'm the one moderating. We don't have much time. We are concluding because we have somebody to receive. If you have something to say concerning the Bapo report, I think.
But that's what I wanted to add.
Okay, but you don't just go in like that, Mr. President. And they say moderator. That's why I'm here.
something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's fine. We could go ahead.
Okay. Bapo report.
No, I was talking about, when we talk about UPC, you know, we have so many branches of UPC. You have also know the
Factions.
UPC Manidem, which is being ruled by President Abem Mutundu, and the Bapo report. There are so many of these factions, and well, that is his own take on it. And well, whatever thing he has to say, I'll join my voice with you to say it
That's
is
a close
as the way
ally.
it is.
That is a
So,
close ally to the CPDM. Is it a bad thing being a close ally to the
It
CPDM?
is the way it is.
Yes.
Sure. First of all, we have to make sure the two things. He's a great person. He was a parliamentarian. He He was the Secretary General of the UPC, recognized by the law. Now he's the chairman of the board of the recoveries. So as a person himself, is someone who is the political career that's been he has been emblematic, and he's been there for the long stay. As to the recognition for the UPC and the CPDM party, I think UPC is an emblematic party in Cameroon, the history of it. The CPDM itself, the union of the KNDP and the UNT, these are emblematic parties in Cameroon. They have been in households and been the staple of households since independence in Cameroon. As to the 40 years, him giving his appreciation, it's historic. It's something that we should appreciate, to listen to what he says. And I think for us in the CPDM, I think it's welcome. There's no political prostitution. There are political alliances. And political alliances are based on what you offer and what we can do together in terms of a political project, in terms of socially, in terms of politically, to be able to
can you bring
national project towards the front.
Can you bring up the contribution of the UPC
Please,
for the enhancement of the CPDM?
Please, we are concluding.
A political alliance.
Please, we are concluding. We have 2 minutes. We are concluding. I'll begin with you. You have a minute. Your last word before we go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tabi. Thank you for inviting me. And to Mr. Paul Biya, President Paul Biya of Cameroon, wish him well, wish him long life after 40 years. But we also pray as a young man, and I join my voice with other young people out there to say that while you're living on, you should also think about the young people, because we are the future of today and tomorrow. And with the present atmosphere, it is very difficult for young people to survive. And we need good leaders, and leaders who are accountable with good management skills like President Samuel Eto'o. We need them in other sectors of Cameroon, and you should think about the young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting Eto'o, for making it clear that you are a supporter of Eto'o. Your last word before we go?
Sure. 40 years at the helm of the state, his dynamism, his diplomatic nature, his peaceful nature, his character, his leadership has been constant, despite the strides and the challenges. Also, I just want to piggyback on one thing. There should be a differentiation between the Federation of Football, which is under the entity of FIFA, and then actual government management. I think with federations, they have an autonomy because they are associations. So there should be a distinct difference between that and the impact of the government. I think we have had normalization committees. I think the Professor, when I was one of the normalization committees, I actually brought in a prophet back into the normalization committee. So I think that people at home should make sure they see the difference. I have nothing against Samuel Eto'o, but that's an individual, that's an association. But in terms of the government has a policy for regulation, not a policy for interference in the management of associations. That is clear.
Fecafoot is a member of the association, which is FIFA. Okay, your last word, Ernest Akufo.
Thank you, Tabi. It was a heated debate, and I think before I leave here, I want to say Bapo Lipot is an astute politician. Yes, those are the type of politicians we need in this nation, despite the fact that they are making a blend with the CPDM, but we need such people who come to speak the truth, but not come to make blah, blah, blah on panels. To end it all, I want to say, President Biya, happy celebration. And Tabi, I want to say the CPDM people have hijacked the celebration of the ceremony. Yes, it has become a CPDM palaver, whereas it ought to become a Cameroon palaver.
But we know that the CPDM, President Paul Biya, is the national president of the CPDM party.
The president of the republic is not the president of the CPDM.
We are not saying so. We are saying that he is the president of the republic.
I wanted to make 2 appeals to the president. Your Excellency, happy celebration, and we just but hope that the war in the northwest and southwest regions be put to a halt.
He has gotten you.
Yeah, and then the rate of inflation too in Cameroon, because households are suffering.
The
Cameroonians are suffering.
Cameroonians are suffering. The president of the republic knows that very well. He has gotten your message, Ernest Akufo, the message of Anshan Paul. We say thank you for coming, Anshan. Thank you, Prince, for coming. Today we really did not have much time. Certainly next time for yet another edition of the papers. We say thank you for watching the papers on Camdis television. Right ahead, we shall be receiving Honorable Bapo Lipot for him to come and tell us the position of the UPC as to what concerns the 40th anniversary of President Biya in power. Till then we say, may God continue to bless the Republic.
En Afrique, Dieu a créé un pays exceptionnel, le Cameroun. Une Afrique en miniature en raison de ses multiples ressources naturelles. Mais le Cameroun, c'est également un pays qui a doté le monde de talents extraordinaires.